Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and I am here doing a special interview. You know I don't get outside of the studio much, so this time I had to come to them because they're so amazing. I'm at USM, University of Santa Monica, and I'm sitting with the founders of this amazing university, a university that teaches spiritual development. Especially in light of what's going on in the world today. I think we're in desperate need of spiritual development. But let me tell you a little story about how I came to know about you guys. I have a friend, her name is Ada Oha, aka Irma Mickens, and a few years ago, maybe around 2011, she was studying here for the 2-year master's program. And one day she called me and said, hey man, I need some help doing my homework. And when I went there to see what she was working on, she had a book called Loyalty to Your Soul.
That's right.
And of course I asked to borrow it. I was like, give me that. I need to, And I was very intrigued by the information inside of it, especially the work on forgiveness.
Yes.
The forgiveness work was powerful. And I always said, when I get back on the radio, these are some people that I have to bring to the station, to the network, to the show. My radio show is based on relationships, the development of meaningful relationships. And I know no one is born with a manual. So I was like, anybody that's close to the manual, I need to get them in here so we can participate and share information. You guys have a new book called Remembering the Light Within. Gosh, why did we forget in the first place? Can you help us?
I mean, do you really want us to respond to that?
I do.
Yes.
I want you guys to really open up and share your path so we can be inspired and understand.
Well, we all experience spiritual amnesia. Just taking a body and coming onto the planet ensures that we will forget. When infants, if you hold a newborn, there is such a presence of love. The presence of spirit is palpable, and this helps ensure the survival of the baby, the love of the baby from the moment they come into a body. But as we grow, and usually around the age of 5 or 6, then what we speak of as the veil dropping occurs, and the process of forgetting begins to take place. And one student once told us a wonderful story. She had a little boy, 5 years old, and she had a newborn. And the little boy, the 5-year-old, came to her and said, Mommy, I just have to spend more time with the baby. I'm forgetting.
Wow. How does this book, in light of Donald Trump, in light of police shootings and everything that's going on, how does this book come to the hands of the people of the world right now and provide a solution?
Well, it's very, very appropriate, really. I think you asked that question because this book really does have an answer. While we're in the amnesia state, and we have to have that. You don't leave heaven to go to heaven. I mean, you have to be, in order to really understand about, let's call it the light or a spirit, you can only do that from a place of relative darkness. You can't have, you have to have the polarity. So on this planet, the polarity is in the sense of how awake someone is, how conscious they are. And that will determine how they relate in the world. We are really a very young species in terms of the evolution of humanity. We have a long way to go, but we're at a turning point right now because events of the world demand it. We can't keep going on this way, or what should we say? Well, hell will break loose, or maybe it already has. However, the point is that if we just keep reacting to things with anger and with negativity, we don't realize all we are really doing is adding to the sum total of the negativity that we say that we're opposed to. So we're really doing the very thing we say we don't want. So there has to be another approach. The time-honored approach throughout history has been that you meet negativity with positivity. You meet anger with love. You meet anger with compassion. You meet anger with understanding. But you have to have an elevated consciousness to some degree to be able to even comprehend what that means. That's why I love what you had to say about forgiveness, because it's not what most people think that it is. The way that most people understand forgiveness is, I'm big enough inside. I'm advanced enough that I can forgive you for that terrible thing you did.
Entitlement. Yeah.
And so we don't realize, as long as I'm still judging that thing you did is terrible, I haven't really forgiven. So what do I forgive? And this is the cornerstone of the whole, this is the linchpin that you bring forward right at the beginning. We learn to forgive ourselves for issuing the judgment in the first place. Because every time we issue a judgment, we're really pretending to know God's will. That is so hard. That is so hard for people. But that is the path. And all that we have done, we were having this conversation with the Dalai Lama a bunch of years ago, and we were talking about, you have to teach these things experientially. Otherwise, they're just concepts in your mind.
Words, yeah.
So you have to create situations where people can relate and have experiences of the thing we're talking about. Then when you recognize they're having that experience, could you share about that experience you're having? And then everybody else in the group can relate to it. So that's the thing that we call by this word, by this group of words. So we now have replaced the concept with an experiential knowing that everybody had at the same time. So it's by only creating those kinds of experiences that people come to understand that the higher pathway, let's call it, is learning how to come into cooperation with other people and working together for what we call the highest good of all concerned. So this is what we've been doing here for the last 36 years.
So this is, in a nutshell, soul-centered living.
This is soul-centered living.
And soul-centered living really, to us, means waking up into the awareness of your essential nature, of who you truly are as a spiritual being, having and using a human experience for awakening. And soul-centered living is really characterized by joy, aliveness, creativity, greater compassion and loving kindness, peace, wisdom. It's not bland or dull. It is really the restoration to our essential nature, and in that, the dissolving of the barriers that we have within us that really block us from knowing ourselves as love.
So the book comes with exercises.
Yes.
How do we take this book and use it as a life curriculum to bring people together, to change the negative stereotypes, the negative narrative that's out here in this world today? Because if you watch TV instead of read this book, right, you're going to see a lot of things that are speaking to a lot of pain,
Yes.
to a lot of frustration, ageism, racism, sexism, classism. All of this is happening at the same time.
That's right.
And the people who don't have this information is forced to choose between a side. How do we slip this in as a choice?
Well, this book was designed as a sequential process over time. And we encourage people to read one chapter and apply the practices and the intentions that are presented within that chapter for a period of 2 weeks. And over the course of a year, there are 26 chapters. Systematically moving through the material is a wonderful way to liberate oneself from the let's say, from the misperceptions and misunderstandings and the unresolved issues, the pain that we carry inside that really keeps us sleepwalking on this planet.
Does pain have a purpose?
Yes. I think pain has a purpose. I mean, what would you say, Ron?
I would say it's simply a feedback mechanism.
Yes.
Say more.
It's a feedback mechanism. Anytime you have emotional, I'm not talking about you hit your hand and you have pain. I'm talking emotional
Trauma.
Yes.
Emotional trauma.
Of any level. It can just be anytime you go into I'm upset because, and you blame it on anything out, you're in pain. You're in upset. That's a form of pain. It's suffering. So the way that we have been brought up is we go, I'm upset because, and then we point the finger out there. I would say because that's going on. Trump did this, or that one did this, or Putin did this, and that's why I'm upset. Which is a very clever manipulation of the ego part of ourselves to allow it to be upset and be right. So we say anytime that you're in upset, you are in the middle of an unresolved issue. Anytime you're upset about anything, the fact that you're upset means you are not in a clear, peaceful, loving place about that thing. So rather than trying to change something out there, which I've never seen anybody able to do anyway, would it be possible, we bring this forward the first weekend of class, would it be possible to somehow get in contact with the place inside yourself where you experience the pain and heal it? And yes.
When you say experience, are you saying embrace?
Let's say I'm angry about something. See, can I do something like give the anger a voice? I'm the anger. I'm really angry at this and that and the other thing. And we will tell us more about yourself, anger. What's your purpose? Well, my purpose is to prompt them to take action to right this terrible wrong, and it's that. So you start to gain access to the consciousness that is embodied in the part that's upset, and then what we do, and we've gotten pretty good at it. If I say myself, people can work with that place inside to heal it, because what they will always find is that anger is always based upon some idea that it has that something should be different from the way that it is. And it's that thing we do in our minds that we move into that position, and the pain, the anger is the result. And that can, sometimes I can't imagine how angry or how upset I'd have to be inside to get in a van and start running down people on a bridge in London.
Wow.
And then go out and start, you gotta be pretty fixed in a belief about what you believe is right. And there has to be a way for people to be able to work with that stuff other than that way. But there are systems that support that way of thinking. This is a system that supports the opposite way of thinking.
The opposite.
Yeah. This is a system that says we can work with that. We won't make that wrong. That's even harder.
That's difficult.
That's even harder. Can I make those people not wrong? Well, could you really? Well, what if you could put yourself in their shoes and you had the indoctrination growing up that they had, and you had the kind of upbringing that you had and the culture that you had, and for a whole variety of reasons, could you not see that if you were, let's say, brainwashed to believe something so strongly that you would give up your life for it, which is not unlike any military organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would that be so out of the realm of possibility? Especially if I was going to pay your family a tidy sum of money and they're poor people and they don't have enough to eat. I mean, it's not that far out of the
realm of possibility.
Out of the realm of possibility.
Not at all. Yeah.
But what's required is a total overhaul of the educational system about how to work with what's important and what's not important. And that's what we attempt to bring forward in our work. And that's why people come here, because I'll give you an example. What if tomorrow that you could try this, and you could, and so could everybody who's watching this. What if tomorrow you woke up and you said, I'm going to try something different today. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, I'm going to choose to see everyone that I see as a divine, loving being who is doing their best given their conditioning. So here I am in the supermarket, and wow, there's a loving being who is pushing the cart in front of the meat counter. There's another one, and that one's got a kid in the car, and that kid is really acting out, and she's yelling at the kid, but she's still a divine being whose essential nature is loving, who is doing the best she knows how to do in that moment. You spend a whole day like that, and we suggest people do it for 2 weeks. I can't imagine anybody really doing that for 2 weeks without it changing their entire life.
Wow. Mary, you wanted to add? You had a few points I saw in your eyes.
She has many points.
Yeah.
And they're all valid.
Well, this whole way of approaching embodiment and being here in human form really rests upon entering the spiritual context and coming into considering the possibility. What if you are a divine being having and using a human experience, and that the real reason you're here is to wake up into the awareness of your essential nature, and that the challenges that you experience, the relationship challenges, the situations and circumstances that you encounter in your life that are difficult, challenging, frustrating, hurtful, annoying, whatever it is,
Yes.
that they are your God-given opportunities to learn how to become more aware of what is it that I'm holding in my consciousness that is contributing to this.
Yeah.
This is inside of me. That other person may be triggering my disturbance, my reaction, but it's not about them. It's about what's going on inside of me, and that actually I can learn how to work with that material. And one of the principles of spiritual psychology is how you relate to the issue is the issue.
It's not the issue that is your issue.
No.
It is your response to the issues
Exactly.
that is your issue.
Exactly.
That's loyalty to your soul, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we reiterate that in this book as a practice. And if you can learn how to get in touch with your own compassion, and you can bring that compassion to the places inside where you feel hurt or you feel disturbed or annoyed, disappointed, those places can heal. And the same thing can happen at a later time, and you'll find yourself much more accepting, not triggered. Now, we're not saying this is easy work, but these practices really do work. And we have over 5,500 graduates of the 2-year program who are living examples of it.
Wow. What about, I looked in the book and I was reading some areas and you guys were talking about service.
Yes.
And I'm really big on service.
Yes, we are too.
The Sanskrit word seva,
Yes.
Devotional service, as seeing someone less than you, but you still see the God in them, you see that divine in them, and you want to serve as a form of religious practice.
Yes.
How can that be implemented into healing this particular culture, especially today?
Well, I think more and more people are seeking to be of service. In our orientation, we speak of 3 paths to spiritual awakening or spiritual growth. And one of them is through working your process. And this book has a lot of practices to assist in that, to resolve the unresolved issues inside. A second path is meditation, which is an ancient tradition that many paths encourage. The third is service. Why is service a path to spiritual awakening? Because it is done from the place that there's no expectation of receiving anything in return. And our experience is that service is a path to joy. Not only is it a path to joy, it is a path to enlightenment, because there's something about coming into the place inside where we love without conditions that is extraordinarily transformational.
Very difficult to love without conditions.
It is difficult.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a bunch of years ago. We used to do some small group processes then. We don't tend to do that now. Though maybe we should. Anyway, I was what we call the room facilitator, and there were students facilitating each other, and a bunch of us who were observing and then giving feedback. And so I'm watching this encounter. One woman is the facilitator and one is what we call the sharer. It'd be like a client and a counselor, same relationship.
Exactly.
And the client is really talking about how awful it is on the planet. There's so much negativity. There's so much darkness. It's everywhere. This is obviously disturbing her peace. And the facilitator looked at her and she said, "Well, if you were God, what would you do?" Which is an incredible question.
It's an amazing question.
And she thought for a minute and she said, "I'd shed light." And the facilitator sat back and said, "Now you know your job."
That's what you're here for.
That's what you are here for.
Let's go to work.
Exactly.
But you're not going to do it by arguing this, that, or the other thing. For a whole bunch of years, at least 10 years, we've been doing some work up at a women's prison up in Northern California. And they were so hungry for this work because everyone was spending their attention in the men's prison and not many things were going on at the women's prison. And we went there. And there's one exercise that we do, and it goes like this. You tell me something that is really important to you, and my only response is, I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. I can't agree with you or disagree with you, just I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. And then this went on and on, and then she'd say something else, and, but this is, I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. Well, later on, what we came to find out is they chose that exercise as the most powerful one that they learned. Because in the prison environment, a fight would break out. And they were asked almost immediately to pick a side.
It removes the picking the side and removes the reaction to it.
So what they did was they realized, I don't have to pick a side. I could say, I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. I'll think about this for a while. And the feedback we got was that one thing saved them from so many write-ups on their record, which resulted in early parole for many of those women. A couple of which actually then came here and went through this program and are doing work in that environment.
Wow. So the end result of soul-centered living is what?
Living a life of peace and loving and joy And the irony is you become more effective because you're not angering other people. Well, maybe some people like
You
that.
know, part of it is too, also, as people are no longer issue-driven, they become more purpose-driven.
Please go deeper into
Yes.
the differences between issue-driven and purpose-driven.
Yes. If I'm living an issue-driven life, my life is going to be driven by the upsets that I experience. And as we all know, there are plenty of things in a human life that can trigger upset. And as one unwires those hot buttons and heals those patterns in consciousness, then the question really becomes, how can I serve? What are my gifts? What is my soul's purpose? Why am I here? How can I make a meaningful contribution? And from my point of view, there really is no end. As long as we're in human form, there's going to be continued opportunity for awakening. But rather than being driven by these upsets and these annoyances and the judgments that I have that contribute to that horrible feeling of separation, instead I'm thinking about, how can I serve? What's my calling?
That makes me think of the Zen proverb, the obstacle is the path.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We say it this way, unresolved issues are not in the way, they are the way.
It's really that simple.
It's really that simple.
Yes.
And I think part of the problem is we've been cultured, conditioned to run away from the opportunity.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
At all costs. It's not about me, it's about them. And they're the problem.
Blaming versus claiming.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly it. And authentic empowerment comes from accepting personal responsibility for what's going on inside of me and recognizing that I have the power to transform these upsets and that I can reside more as the presence of love.
This is light work.
It is
That's
light
exactly
work.
what it is.
It's exactly
That's
what it
exactly
is.
what it is.
Yes.
And how do we encourage others to find the light and then empower the light within?
You know, our point of view is by showing up as in the best way we can, in the highest consciousness that we can muster. And people sense there's something different, or they have known you long enough to be aware something is changing. And so then they become interested. From our point of view, the best message comes through example. By living the loving, by shifting from an I'm upset because orientation to life to I am blessed. And I can live a life of giving and loving and caring and sharing.
Don't say, I don't bring quality people to you that provide answers to the situation that you're currently in. I want everybody who listens to my show, who follows this channel, to go get a copy of Remembering the Light Within, a course in soul-centered living by this loving married couple, the Hulnicks over here at USM, the University of Santa Monica. I've read not the whole book, but I've read enough to know that it's not a game. It's not a game. Where do people find this?
You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Those are probably the two major booksellers. And of course here at USM.
Definitely also get Loyalty to Your Soul. That one was, in our parlance, a heater. Go get that book. I appreciate you guys taking the time to share your thoughts about your new book, Remembering the Light Within. I would love to come back, and interview you guys again.
We'd love to do that.
That would be great.
It's great talking with you.
If you'd like, it just so happens, once a year, we do a weekend Loyalty to Your Soul workshop so people can really get a taste of this. And we'd be honored to have you as our guest at the workshop.
Oh, I'd love to come by. I'd love to come by.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's in August, I think the 18th through the 20th.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm there. You guys heard it. I'm there. I'll show up. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. This was
Thank you,
beautiful.
Sybil.
Thank you.
Thank you.